everyone, and welcome back for a brand new episode of Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colson, and of course, I'm here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, Maria Reed, and again, we are Four Friends in a Book. So, listen, if you're tuned in for the very first time, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. So, we meet here to discuss that book, to review it, to talk about it, and just to kind of catch up amongst each other. So, we like to consider ourselves a book club, book reviewers, mixed with just table talk amongst friends. So, if you haven't already, please go back, get caught up and current with Four Friends in a Book, because we have great book discussions, great topics, and great rants by my brother Isaiah too at the end of each episode. So again, check us out. Tell a friend to tell a friend about Four Friends in a Book podcast. All right, man. So we moseying along here, man. We're in the month of April. Got a good little selection. We gonna talk about this. But we my big cousin, Charlamagne the guy. We are reviewing his book, Get Honest or Die Lying by Charlamagne the God. Leonard McKelvey, the government name. So we all know him from the Breakfast Club, just kind of a media personality for just kind of being straightforward, a straight shooter. And so he's blessed us once again. This is his third book. But in this book, Get Honest or Die Lying, Why Small Talk Sucks. And so he's kind of trying to explain, I guess, kind of the current state of how we are just as a community of people, how we interact, how we have conversations or lack of conversations. And so he kind of dives into that in this book here. And so it's only fitting that we review it here on Four Friends in the Book, because we like good books, like good conversation. And we don't do no small talk over here. We doing big conversation over here. But to open it up and kind of set the little premise. So Charlamagne, and I quote, says, small talk is killing us as a society. To be clear, when I say small talk, I'm not saying you can't chat about the weather or ask coworkers how traffic was on your way to the job. I mean small talk as a symbol or lack of authentic communication, both as individuals and collectively. So he's really saying, we have all these forms and methods of communications, but we're not really being very effective in what we're talking about. And it's not really much talk about things of substance. And so we're gonna get into this book. We're gonna unpack it. We're gonna talk about the book for April. Get Honest or Die Lying. All right. So look, first question, you already know what it is. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And I'm gonna kick it off with my good brother Isaiah Tukes, man, to start this show off. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it, what would that be?
So this was interesting to read because I normally like Charlamagne's work. I read his other two books, Black Privilege, and I think Shook One. And, he blew me away with that one. But a lot of these stories that he's talked about in this particular book, I've heard them before, like, because I wouldn't say a fan, but I follow his journey. So I've heard a lot of the stuff that he talked about as far as like his mental health, his adolescence, his things going on with his father. But if you had read those stories before, this would have been a good read for me if I never heard those stories. But, it was kind of lukewarm compared to his first two books that I actually got from him. I felt that, I wanted to gain some more, which this book was sprinkled with a lot of new stories, but it kind of fell flat for me, but they're just for me. I think Charlamagne, like you said in the beginning, when he talk about small talk, you can talk about stuff like, community work with your coworkers, but I'm good at small talk, but I don't like small talk. Like, get straight to the point with me, like hit me directly between the eyes. Like, I like genuine, authentic conversation, leaving the person feeling like I learned something. Not just I learned something, but I also gave that person some wisdom as well too. So I understand that part about just being authentic when you just talk to people. Like, I don't like hot smoke, people blowing fluff for, up you. I don't like that as well too. But, and one thing I want to do add as well too, like this book did finish strong for me. That last chapter in the book, I think we're going to get to it as well. But the beef don't interact with the miserable. I kind of enjoyed that chapter as well too. That's one of my favorite chapters as well too. And it talks about basically the social media thing. Like, just don't get caught up in that social media thing. Like, you people can be saying anything. I think even Charlamagne even said something like, the people you arguing with, they can be literally be sitting on the toilet and you're just going back and forth with somebody.
Right.
And you don't even know what they got going on over there. Like, sometimes you just look at it and you just keep going. Like, you'll be caught up in that long spiraling downhill of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, this was an okay read for me. I think I rate my boy 6.
Okay. Got a 6 from Isaiah for Get Honest or Die Lying. All right, coming to Miss Kimberly Lake next. What did you think about this book and what would you rate it?
Well, unlike Isaiah, I haven't read his other 2 books. So I'm not unfamiliar with him as an author. Of course, I listened to him on the Breakfast Club and other interviews like that. So the stories and everything in the book was new to me. I overall enjoyed the book because I listened to him on the radio, but I kind of got a little deeper look into him because I didn't know all his backstory like that because I haven't read his other books and all of that. So I did enjoy the book. It's a very light tone. So it's like has some comedy and stuff in it, but it's still talking about some heavy issues. So it has some depth to it. So if you like depth, but like light tone and all that stuff, this book is for you. I listened to it on Audible. He read it. So I enjoy him narrating the book because it's like listen to him on the radio. Overall, I did enjoy the book. I would recommend it. And if I had to rate it, I would give it a solid 8. So I like the book.
Okay. That's good. So we got a 6 and an 8 kicking this book off for the month of April. All right, coming to Ms. Laria Reed next. Look, are you following suit? What do you think about this book? If you had to rate it, what would that be?
Well, I'm like Kim. I never read any of his other books. And I only see Charlamagne when he does clips on TikTok or whatever for Breakfast Club. So I'm not like a Breakfast Club follower in that sense. I know he's helped my girl Wendy Williams out. So
Free Wendy.
Free Wendy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I went into the book just kind of wide open, I didn't know what to expect. And to hear a lot of his stories, I didn't know a lot of his background, which makes so much sense as to why he is the way that he is. It was a lot of riveting stories that I was kind of like, whoa, what? I didn't know. Okay. All right. I did hear about his mental health. He is an advocate for that. So I wasn't shocked by that, but I was glad that he talked about it. But I enjoyed the book because he has kind of a mind like mine where it's like subject to subject. Okay. So then, politics. Okay. Yeah. Then relationships. Okay. Yeah. Then da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Yeah. Then growing up, it was like he was hitting it, but I got it. I understood it and I liked it. It was a good book. I really enjoyed it. I'll give it an 8. It was a good book. It was solid.
Okay. All right. So my boy Charlamagne trending fairly well here on 4 Friends. Yeah, for me, so kind of like Isaiah. So I read his first book, Black Privilege, which was kind of my, I guess, different exposure to him. So, again, we know him from the Breakfast Club and kind of just being, very outspoken, says whatever's on his mind. He doesn't hold anything back. And so we know him as this kind of media personality. But for me, reading his first book, Black Privilege, was kind of an insight to behind the scenes and also getting a different perspective. Because I think a lot of our, people that are in the entertainment or media personalities, we kind of get one side or one aspect of how they are people and not really getting that behind the scenes exposure. So I was pleasantly surprised with even reading his first book. He's really smart.
Very.
Even though he doesn't have all the formal education of, college and all this stuff, he's very well read, studies a lot, does a lot of hard work as far as, preparing for interviews and even the people that he interviews and the questions that he asks. So been a fan from that perspective for a while. And again, we know him from the Breakfast Club and all those things. So I didn't read the second book, but as Isaiah mentioned, there's some overlap and some similarities between just kind of hearing his story, the things that he's covering throughout his life, his struggles with just kind of growing up, you know, in Monk's Corner, South Carolina, talking about his childhood, just kind of trying to find his way, even early years, trying to, you know, be on radio and being a DJ, working for Wendy, you know, getting to the Breakfast Club, and also even seeing his evolution and growth over time, him, you know, kind of being very outspoken, very blunt, very just you know, shocking in his interviews, but to also get this other mature and grown aspect of him. As Laria mentioned, talking about mental health and how important that is to him, and just really kind of seeing him evolve and change. So for me, reading the book was kind of refreshing. I really enjoyed the fact that he kept his chapters very short and sweet. So he was kind of really to the point. He, as he said, the small talk, he was not about it at all. So sticking to the point, very digestible information, kind of concise, condensed, straight to the point. And for me, it was well received. So I enjoyed this book. If I had to rate it, I think I'm gonna give him a good 9, man. I enjoyed the book. Again, just kind of hearing his story, hearing his perspective, and him really just being like unapologetic about, you know, his journey, his story, and giving perspective. And like I said, he still does it very boldly. I think he's become a little more tactful over the years, but just still giving good information to his audience. And I feel like it was in a form that was very well digestible and not too long and drawn out. So yeah, I'm gonna give my boy a good solid 9 here. All right, so let's dig a little deeper. So one of the common themes that kind of kept coming up throughout the book was I guess Charlamagne's kind of dislike or like his distaste for like social media and how he feels like that is kind of really morphed the reality of so many people. You know, I think we all kind of, you know, we hopefully understand that social media is a tool, but for many people, like it's their life, like it's their livelihood. There's even a chapter where he talks about like influencers where like they have literally become celebrities solely based on the fact that they are just social media entertainers. Like they don't have any special talents, any special gifts. Like they not out here winning championships or anything. Like they literally just post every day. And so he really talks about social media a lot and how this kind of morphed the landscape of kind of how we see reality right now, how we operate, how we move throughout, you know, our country, even in this world. And so I wanted to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about social media, and also, do you think it's like, are we at a point now where we really should kind of, you know, maybe start weaning ourselves off of it, getting rid of it, because it is so like woven into our day-to-day lives now. What do you think the long-term impacts of social media are? Like I said, should we be trying to taper ourselves off of social media, or do you think it's still, you know, even a valid forum for kind of communication and entertainment or whatever that may be? So I'm gonna come to Kim on this one to talk about this whole social media concept, not only just from his book perspective, but what your own personal thoughts and opinions are.
Well, I am on social media. I'm an active social media user. It's funny because over the years I've seen it, like, because we were like the generation that, you know, it came on in. So like back when Facebook was just for college people, and you had MySpace, and you were coding and trying to find songs and having the top 8 in the box and all that, and Black Planet, all that stuff. So social media, I think it started out great, but like anything, stuff can get out of balance. And I think now, I don't know who it was on one of these. I think it actually was on the Breakfast Club. Somebody was talking about social media, and he was talking about how humans, we're not really wired to know this many people and this many opinions and this much information. When you think about it, like if we didn't have social media, we would just know, you know, the people in our immediate group, but we're exposed to literally the entire world. And that's a lot. So I do believe that we are to the point where I think taking breaks from social media is needed for everybody, because I think social media is not really the real world, but it can feel like the real world when you're in there. So people can like compare other people's lives to their lives and all this stuff. And another thing, it's funny when I think about stuff like prom. I remember going to the prom, and Laria can attest to this, like how the girls are now is completely different to how we dress and all that. But it's because of, like, say, social media. They're exposed to like how to beat a face. Like you're 13 and know how to put on a full face of makeup. You need lashes and all the fashion. And like, you're just so exposed to so much younger through social media. It's like changed things so much. So I agree with him with the disadvantages of it, but I do think you just have to be responsible. It's kind of like drinking. Drink responsibly, but you need to use social media responsibly. So
yeah.
Okay. So Laria, what are your thoughts on, I guess, social media? You know, even because, like, to Kim's point, I think we're of that generation where, like, say, we were the beginners of, like, you know, the MySpace and Facebook when it was kind of, you know, before it was like wide scale and just kind of just what it is now. Do you think it's grown to the point where it's like it's too much? Maybe to take breaks from it. And even to Kim's point, like using it responsibly, because now we have so many kids that are on social media. Like, how do you balance all those activities?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kim. I was thinking about it when he was talking. Well, when I was listening to him on Audible and he was talking about social media. And I just happened to think about, it feels like from what I've seen when TV came out, they were having the same talks, like now people are going to be exposed to so much more. Now you'll be able to see people in different, you know, places. Oh my God. Cause I remember when TV used to go off. I remember with TV, like they would do the Star Spangled Banner in the morning and they would do a Star Spangled Banner at night, you know. So I was thinking, like, you know, how we've evolved from, I remember TV being like, oh my God, don't leave your children in front of the television. It's going to ruin them. And, you know, we were exposed to, in great ways, to like the Cosby Show and A Different World and all those things. But I think social media has its place, just like television had its place during that time. And, you know, and it's certain people like a Keith Lee and a Kev on Stage I would have never known about if it weren't for social media. So I believe it has its good places, but you just have to monitor it just like we do with anything else. Everything has to have a boundary. And I don't think that a lot of parents are, you know, because I know children that are my nephew's 9, and a lot of his friends have cell phones. Like, that's crazy to me. I'm just like, well, what are you doing? And why are you, you know, even at church, when we're going into church, you see kids with their tablets coming in and they sit down, put their headphones on and just get on the tablet the whole time. Whereas, you know, we were talking about that Sunday. I didn't have no children's church, but I had to sit there. Wasn't no ADD, ADHD, with none of that. Everybody, whatever you had, you was going to sit in that seat for 3 hours, because we get out of church about 1 o'clock.
So you better not go to sleep.
And you better not. So my thing is, I believe that he has a strong point about it. And I think too, with him being a celebrity and experiencing social media's negative side, where people just dog you out and they're committed to misunderstanding you constantly, you know, his side of looking at it, his view is completely different from ours, because nobody's doing that to me. I'm not a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he had a different vantage point in that sense. But I do agree, we just need boundaries around it. It shouldn't be, you know, where social media is cultivating how you do your family and your children and how you raise them. Yeah, you take the good with it and the bad. You know, it's going to be bad and everything, but I don't think it should run your whole life. That's my thing.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think the problem now is, like, how do you make that clear distinction? So we live in a time now where, again, as he mentioned, we have like influencers where like they literally are become celebrities just for being a so-called celebrity. Like they haven't done anything, but they have amassed this huge following online. But it's also, I think, warped our reality where people, so as Kim mentioned, talking about prom. So now someone posts their prom pictures and it's all extravagant and, this big event. And so the person watching it feels like, well, no, my prom should be like that as well. So it's like you're trying to match these scenarios that like may not even be real. I mean, people may be going in debt behind these activities.
Most definitely.
But the famous quote, look, do it for the gram. So like you're doing stuff for like these media outlets to really portray or have this perception of wealth, and that you're doing is people traveling all over the place, and they supposedly these travel influencers, and or they have all these high fashion, high end jewelry and all this stuff, and like maybe living with with parents, the other they are presenting themselves as one way on the internet, and may not even be what's really going on. But in this media world that we live in, like it can be so misleading. And so I think that's the bigger issue, because I think we as responsible adults can like delineate and know how to separate the two, or even know when people kind of front. It's like, I mean, they appear to be doing this, but like, man, they ain't living like that for real. But I think like the younger kids, like they're so consumed by this perception of what they view as reality. And even other locations, other places, man. Like I remember traveling when I went to Africa, and it's like I was talking to this guy, and he just thought, and again, based solely off of social media, that like we were all just like doing it up, all like living, flying private jets and all this stuff, because his perception of American culture and Black culture was that we're living this high life, high end fashion. Everyone is wealthy, everyone is doing all this stuff. And I was like, nah, dude, that's not reality. But like, and he was an adult. So it's like, he could even separate it just culturally. So I think that's the hard part that we have with social media now. Like there's not a clear distinction between what's real and what's, for the gram or for TikTok or what people are putting on Facebook, and even these influencers and how they're like living these lives or portraying these lives they're living. So I do agree with his point. Like social media has definitely grown, I think, much larger than anyone may have thought about. But I think it's still hard to make that clear distinction as far as, what's this social reality versus the real world reality that we live day to day. So it's just really difficult. So
that's good take.
Isaiah, you have any thoughts on just how much social media has become like woven into our day-to-day lives, and even the fact of, should we be taking breaks? Should we try to do away with social media? Just what's your overall thoughts about this social media life that we are living day to day here in the year of 2025?
I think social media is so different than what it used to be. Like L'Oreal and Kim, what all y'all said, like when we first got on social media, like we had to have college emails, and we was basically using it to keep in contact with people. But now people just post the craziest things on social media, like what are you doing? And me, I'm trying not to judge, but I don't have a lot of time just to post pictures of shoes and stuff. Like, come on. Like, I know even on Twitter, like I use it for like to capture news cycles of what's going on within the world, and it still happens so quickly. Nobody don't even care about something that happened 24 hours ago. Like that's how fast the news cycle travels. And I think the funniest thing about social media is like nobody really knows the person really they're following unless they post something. So if I never even see your post, I never even know what's going on as well. And I know this is an unpopular opinion, but you can still be friends and have a good social life and don't have to follow some of your people on social media. Like and those are the good interactions that I like to pick up the phone, to call one of my good people to say, hey, what's going on? And blah, blah, blah. I don't have to read your Facebook or Instagram to see what's going on. I just pick up the phone and call you. Like I like that verbal to verbal interaction, in this new social media culture. I just think that it just become toxic, like debating people, like with this uninformed opinion, and you're going against professionals and doctors and stuff just because you saw something on TikTok. You want to go against somebody like and you holding it as gold. Like, I mean, I have seen people that just go to back or standing down this hill, and like you are totally wrong. And sometimes you have to just look at it and just pass through, like, I am not getting involved in that as well, too. Like, and it's about your perspective. Like, if you're grown and you have a mature mind and you know how to decipher between what's real and what's not, I mean, you can make the best of social media, but if you're taking a break and if you're going back and deep diving into that trash and trauma, I think sometimes, I know for me, I had to reverse myself and get off of that social media and just look at it when I need to. And other than that, like, it just becomes too much sometimes.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah, look, we are in our Lenting season, so I'm just curious if you guys are our listening and viewing audience, if y'all are kind of weaning yourself off of social media for Lent or whatever. So like, just drop us a comment in the comment section.
I ain't being at all.
You ain't gave it up for Lent?
No.
You gave a Lent in your pockets.
Right, gave a Lent in my pockets.
But yeah, just even curious from our listeners and viewers, you know, what do you guys think about the current state of social media? So look, drop us some comments, you know, right now about, you know, the life or state of social media, especially with just kind of this kind of false reality that we're kind of living in, because it's crazy. It's different. Like I said, I think it's the only thing I can really say. Like, it's just so different from kind of how it started. So, all right, cool. So let's go a little deeper. So one of the topics that Charlamagne kind of talked about a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, my boy was like,
he did.
Talking about trees,
everything in the world.
Everything.
He was like, I mean, and the topic was just jumping all over the place. I mean, like,
Yeah, they were.
Talking about, like I said, tree hugging, you know, finding your ancestors, like talking to the ancestors, all kind of stuff he just covered in his book. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. And so again, if you guys haven't,
I forgot about tree.
Leonard is a lot different from Charlamagne the God, and so there is a clear distinction between him. But one of the things he kind of brought up that I really wanted to talk about, because I also agree, he talked about kind of the gap we're kind of seeing now with like our younger and older generation, and how this wedge is kind of being, I guess, created between the two. And so he kind of really talks about that we're losing this generation of wisdom because like young people aren't talking to old people aren't talking to young people. And there's a huge disconnect between the different generations. And kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on that, and also what you think may be the cause or the culprit of this, you know, this gap or this wedge in communication between the younger and the older generations. And so I'm gonna come to Laria on that. Do you have any perspective or thoughts on just this disconnect between the younger generation communicating with the older generation?
I think that both generations, older and younger, have this notion that the other one doesn't want to hear the other one. So neither one of them talk. So going back to, of course, y'all know the church world is my world. If I talk to, sometimes I'll say, you know, to some of the older ladies, you know, you should talk to her. She said, well, you know, y'all young folks don't want to hear what I got to say. You know, y'all want to do what you want to do. And they may have had one interaction with someone where they tried to talk to them about something. And so they feel like, well, I can't, you know, and I'm not going to say that sometimes and it's all about how you come at somebody too. You know, you can't just come in there just 38 hot. Just you need to, you know, it's the tone and how you talk to and developing relationships and developing friendships so that you can speak with others, so that you can give instruction to them. And I think there has to be responsibility on both sides to do that. And I don't think that, I think we talk at each other. Same thing with men and women. We talk at each other, but not to each other. So for understanding. And so I think that that's the biggest issue that I've personally seen and experienced is everybody's talking about each other, but nobody wants to talk to one another for whatever reason. And I think that it's stifling our community, especially in the Black community, because when we think about our parents' generation and all the things that they, you know, the civil rights era and all those, they have so many gems that they may not have even told us about. But if we don't talk to them, we'll never know, you know, their method to the madness. So I think that it will assist us in knowing our history, kind of like he assisted me, Charlamagne. I didn't know about his father. That's why he's, you know, because I always called him a mean girl. Because he just, you know, He ain't got no feelings. He just be saying stuff. You're like, Charlamagne, not what you do,
No.
But I understand the culture in which he came from, the mental history that he came from. And so it's really a let me get you before you get me kind of situation. Right. And so, but yeah, that goes back to understanding your culture. That's where he came from. That was the father that he grew up with. So now I understand him. But just think about it. The two of them never talked. He wouldn't understand his mental health, all those things. So, one goes with the other.
No, that's good. Isaiah, you have any thoughts and opinions on just, I guess, this lack of communication amongst the different generations?
Yeah. First, are we Generation X or Y? We X, right? Our age group.
I think I am the first month of the first year for millennials, and I'm older than all of you guys. So, okay. But I still kind of feel like I'm X.
So you're not even in the
I'm not even Generation X. 1981 was the first year of the millennial, and I'm January. So I'm literally 15 days into being a millennial. But I identify more so with Generation X than I do as a millennial.
Okay, because those dates be changed, but I'm sorry about
that. Yeah.
But I think the relationship between like the older and younger generation needs to be corrected. I think this younger generation needs to focus on, listening more, grasping more of what this older generation has to say. Whereas the older generation, they have to be more understanding when the younger person comes to you, and they can't be so condescending of saying, this is my way and this is how I work and this is how you need to do it. And I know for me, because of the generation I grew up in the 90s, but 80s babies, I would shut up in a heartbeat when an OG is basically giving me gems, telling me how to get, telling me how to get my foot in the game. And I like stuff like this. But I also see it on the other side with the younger generation, where things have become, like I said, a little condescending. And you can't tell somebody that they're undoing something right just because it didn't work for you. Like technology has so much advanced, and there's so many different ways that we can do different things. And I don't know, man. I just hate how, this situation plays out when these younger generation and go back with the older generation. Me, even though an old generation will come at you sideways, I still like to offer that respect, come from me. And that's just how I'm raised. Like when an older person is talking to you, you have to just sit there and listen or take it. Like I can offer my advice, but I try to do it respectfully as well too. But I still try to take those gems in. But I just hate that some of my own peers, they miss out on opportunities because they don't like to listen. They don't like to grasp that knowledge. They always want to do more talking and more listening. But I can also see that point of they don't want to be disrespected by the OGs. I don't know, man. It's just like a difficult situation. My only advice is just learn how to just respect people.
That's true. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Kim, what are your thoughts on, I guess, this wedge has been driven between the different generations and even whether it's small talk or no talk that's happening between the two?
To Isaiah's point, I agree with him. I think with our generation, like he said, like we were kind of raised to like, you respect adults, all that good stuff. Somewhere after us, it has changed.
Went downhill.
The wild years came in.
It really changed. I'm like, oh, y'all talking to adults like this?
Right,
like, what?
Right. Come on.
But I think what would help that is really like if you're older, on the older side of things, just realizing that this really is a different they really are different. And just being younger, realizing that, you don't know everything, even though it feels like it. And they were just raised different. So I think they just feel like they know more and see more, and they are exposed to more. So I just think they don't see the value in somebody older telling them something. Because I can Google that, ChatGPT, like everything's kind of at their fingertips. So it's like no value in that person and like having a mentor, somebody older. But I just think that we can meet in the middle. But I do think this generation after, they just really are different. Because I'm like, I hear some of the stuff and I'm like, I wouldn't do that, and I'm 41 and I'm still like that. But yeah, it's just a little different nowadays.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and I agree with all you guys. And I don't know how to better explain it. It is just different. And I mean, we're not that old. I mean, like I said, well, even for us to kind of see it, it's like, it's crazy how much different things are from like growing up. Like I said, even kids, and Charlamagne kind of talks about it like these delusions and entitlements where these kids really just feel like, they are owed and deserve all these things. Like,
right.
Even in the, whether it's like your personal life, as far as like having this wealth instantly, even professionally, like they feel like, someone else is doing it again via what they see on social media. Like I should be able to live that same lifestyle. Like they living in a penthouse, I should be able to have that. Or, he talked about being on the job for, someone had worked for like, 3 or 4 years and feel like they should be like, the president or the CEO now. Like I've done 4 years of hard labor. I should be running this place now. And so there are a lot of differences. And I think that wedge is kind of being driven further apart because there is such a difference as far as perspective. And I give it to the younger generation. Like they are very activated and they move quickly. If stuff is not going their way, like they're not sitting still. The old adage was like, hey, you got you a job, you stayed there and worked forever.
Like no.
That's what my mom be saying. You changing jobs all the time. I'm like, hey, they have like 3-4 jobs. That's a lot to her. They stayed on one job.
They had pensions and all that.
Yeah, so, we don't have that.
And so I get it because a lot of that stuff wasn't really beneficial for us. Like we were being loyal to these companies that really weren't looking out for us. So I applaud the younger generations in certain aspects, but I think there is wisdom to be gained, from talking to the older generations, even to Isaiah's point, like, even if you don't agree, like sit there and like take that information in, like experience is the best teacher, even more so when you can get experience from someone else without having to go through
definitely
those hardships. And so to glean that information from someone that's already been through it, that's invaluable. And I think a lot of people are missing out on those opportunities just to, again, have a conversation. And as Charlamagne mentioned, like not the small talk conversation, like really talking about things of substance, of matter. He kind of mentions it even within his book. He was like, millennials often aren't looking for dialogue. They're looking for viral moments. So it's like,
that's true.
Even in some of these forums that we're in, like podcasts or interviews, like everyone is looking to go viral opposed to really like what you can gain, what knowledge you can get. It kind of reminds me of it was the big debate a few years back, like people talking about like taking $1 million or having like dinner with Jay-Z.
I'm going to dinner.
I'm taking the money.
I want the money. Give me money. Write the check. Write the check.
Give me the business plan, Ho. I need to know what's going on.
He gonna be like, all you got to do is just, save your money, invest. You be like, what?
I'm going to dinner with my boy Ho.
I can't chance it.
It's like even that. Yeah, it's like it's this huge, debate about what is right, and and some people do value the relationship, knowing like, hey, if I can have this relationship with him, that open up, other avenues. And I mean, I get the money aspect as well, but even at a smaller level, I just feel like we're not having those communications. We're not talking, and I think the older people have to be better as well because I feel like they be skirting around the truth a lot. Like they don't tell they complete truths. Like they talk about their like latter years of like what they have grown to be opposed to those mistakes and missteps they took early on. And so I think transparency has to be at the forefront of these conversations as well, because you can't, try to school someone on like how to do something or get them the finished product without telling them some of the hard methods of getting there and even some of the missteps or mistakes you made along the way. And I think oftentimes the older generations, they don't want to admit that they had failures and they did a lot of stuff wrong along the way as well. So, all right. Good discussion. Good conversation. What, one quick thing, favorite chapter, or if you had a favorite moment from the book, just real quickly. Isaiah.
Well, I got two. So, and I think they were both of the next to the last. One, like I said from the beginning, like the beef don't, the blessed don't, what it was? The blessed don't mess with the beef. What did he say? How was that chapter?
Yeah.
I can't remember the title, but yeah, I know.
And the other one was on imposter. And the other one was on imposterism. I know with me, that was really one of my favorites because I suffer with that. And to get to your point was like, it does not matter how much you achieve. It does not matter how many degrees you have on your wall. it just still something that just tell you in the back of your mind, like something's going to go wrong. You don't supposed to be in this room. I mean, you're gonna be exposed that you are such and such and such and such. And I have to tell myself, like, but you're supposed to be in this room. You're in this room because God put you in this room. You're in the room because of your hard work, your accolades, the things that you have done in your life, your failure, your successes made you be suited to be at this table. And I have to constantly pep talk and tell myself that when this other show is telling me, like, man, get your stupid self from up this table. Like, what are you doing? Like, I constantly have to give myself pep talk. Like, it is crazy that imposter. Like, I thought, and until if I finally read about it, about what it really means. Like, I used to suffer with that a lot. And like a lot of the things, like, you really don't want to talk about your accolades and what you have done because of, I feel like the rug is going to be taken from under you. Like, nothing else is going to come. No more blessings are going to come. Like, it's going to stop there. People are going to say, like, he's not doing that. He's doing that because of nepotism, of somebody just knew him and did it. But no, they don't see the hard work. They don't see the late night. They don't see the early morning. They don't see the grind that you put into your craft of trying to get to that next level. And that's why when I always try to talk and mentor people, like I'm saying, like, you have to put your all in. You have to put your grind in. Like, you have to get all that noise out. You got to remember why you even started. What did you want to gain? What is the end result? When you know the end result of why you want to do something, you're always going to be marching to the end result. Nothing is going to stop you. I don't care if you have to write down different milestones of what you're trying to get here from there, but during this next month, remember what the end goal is as well. And I think that is how I actually deal with that. That is like my saving grace of, like, this is the end result. This is where I'm supposed to be at. God put me at this table for a reason.
Most definitely.
That's good.
That was good.
Kim Laria, good, I guess, favorite chapter, moment, or lessons learned?
I just like when he was talking about how, look, the dreamer coming in here, how he used to be a dream killer. Dreamer. And like, if somebody was doing something, he's like, you can't do that, or you can't rap or whatever. But now that he's older, more mature, like he said, his daughter wants to be an astronaut. So he's like, okay, we're going to learn about being an astronaut, and like just really cultivating those dreams in people. So that I like that part, because I don't believe you should kill anybody's dream like that. So I'm glad he learned that lesson. And now he is for people dreaming and supporting those dreams and goals.
That's good. I actually was comparing him to Young Jeezy. He was talking about the anxiety, and I'm noticing more and more of the black men that I read about. Most of them, I have like anxiety, and him coping with it, with the grounding and all that in the outdoors, and him talking about being in South Carolina and correlating all of it. I really enjoyed that part, because I felt like that's something that I always say. I feel like a lot of our children are medicated because they don't go outside enough. I just don't feel like they get we had to troubleshoot, and he even talked about it, how you would go and have to wait for like an hour if your friends told you they'd meet you at a certain time, but they weren't there. You just hang out because you knew they were going to come eventually. They just might have got in trouble, or something would have happened, or you would be with your friend like, okay, somebody ride by on your bike and see what's going on. Do you see their lights on? Did they leave? Is their car in the carport? It was like we had a lot of troubleshooting where we solved problems very young. And so he kind of touched on that, and it really made me feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. I've been saying that for a while. So it was cool to hear that. And I didn't know he was a tree hugger. He made me want to go hug a tree. I'm like, okay, so he releases what now? Let me go in. I'm going to go read up on that some more, because I do feel like God gives us stuff on earth to help us. I'm going to go look at that and find out.
Most definitely. That's good. Well, again, guys, if you haven't already, definitely go check out our book selection for the month of April. Get Honest or Die Lying.
Yeah.
Why Small Talk Sucks by Charlamagne the Guy. Look, about every 6 to 8 months, somebody be like, man, you look just like Charlamagne. I'm like,
what?
Are you serious?
I get it.
I would have never put that together. Wow.
Especially,
I can't unsee it.
Like when I don't have any facial hair, I think it's like the bald head and like the cheekbones. They be like, man, you look just like Charlamagne. I'm like, all right, man. So
you're like, I'm black and bald. Is that what qualifies?
Essentially.
That's funny. Y'all don't favor, but it's funny.
He said every 6 to 8 months.
Every 6 to 8 months. It come up. But yeah, you guys haven't, definitely go check out the book. Leonard McKelvey, aka Charlamagne the guy. Like, good selection for us here on Four Friends in the Book. And so we recommend you guys check it out as well. And if you have read it, definitely hit us up in the comments and tell us what you think about that book. So
please let us know.
All right, y'all. So you know what time it is. Our favorite segment of the show, which we entitle The Rant. Where we give my good brother Isaiah Tukes 60 seconds to kind of speak his heart, his mind, whatever he's thinking about. And so, my brother, the floor is yours once again to give your rant for the month of April. So 60 seconds, all you, man. Starting now, go.
So ChatGPT roast people. So I just found this out and I asked them to roast this podcast. And this is what it said.
No!
So 4 friends in a book, more like 4 friends and a whole lot of side conversation. Y'all would start a book and somehow end up debating about who makes the best mac and cheese. And by the time you circle back to the plot, I even forgot we were talking about a book. One of y'all always give English teacher energy. And one of you always sounds like you're 3 seconds from a nap, while another you is ready to argue with the author that they showed her late to brunch. And another one, you're just here for the vibes and the snacks. But that's the charm. But that's the charm. You feel like the group chat pulled up with mics, funny, chaotic, heartfelt, and just structured enough to say it's a podcast. But honestly, the vibe is undefeated. It's chaotic, cozy, and somehow still smarter than half the stuff you see on YouTube. But keep doing your thing. Keep being the friend group we didn't know we needed on our playlist, but maybe, just maybe, read past chapter 2 next time.
That's funny. I like it. That's funny.
Watch your mouth.
we need to bring it out.
ChatGPT roasting people.
Check it out. Four Friends in the Book.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I know which one. Yeah. I know which friend I am.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. I'm trying to figure out who I was in that. Okay. Well, look, we do read past chapter 2, ChatGPT. We read the whole book.
Watch them out, chat.
Yeah, over here on Four Friends. We read whole books and talking about them, but we do like to talk about other stuff too. So
right.
That is true.
All right, so good discussion about Charlamagne's Get Honest or Die Line. And look, we just found out ChatGPT got a little hate on us, but we can take the love and the hate. We can take the love and the hate over here on Four Friends in the Book. All right, so Isaiah, tell them what's coming up next month here on Four Friends in the Book podcast.
So guys, before we let you go, we're going to be diving into this classic Sula by Toni Morrison. You do not want to miss it. L'Real, please let the viewers know when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday of the month. We'll be right here with another new episode.
And if you're on social media, continue to use it responsibly. But find us on there and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can stay up to date with what we're doing.
Yes.
Absolutely, guys. And again, we're always looking for feedback. So any book recommendations, topics, we love to hear from you guys. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow. Let's have a conversation right here on Four Friends in the Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.